Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Gig. I'm your host, Mike Redman. On Gig, I interview talented, experienced people in the film and music industry so you can learn what they do for a living. Today, my guest is Stephanie Pfingsten, owner of Lumos PR. If you're a part of the below-the-line crew in the film industry, or music industry for that matter, you'll really enjoy this episode. Stephanie is candid as she explains what the heck a PR company does and how they do it. I didn't understand much about the public relations segment of the industry going in, but Stephanie explains why she is so excited to help people move their careers forward by shining a spotlight on them. So as always, let's jump right in. Well, hi, Stephanie. How are you today?
Hi, Mike. It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing well in Florida, and are you guys hot out there?
We're over here in LA. It is very warm. I think everyone's getting the heat dome right now. So everyone's getting a little bit of heat. But yeah, it's good. I was just in New York and Austin over the weekend. So we're, traveling around quite a bit. But it's warm in LA, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy you could join me today because I think what you do is something that is it's not very well understood. And beyond not being understood, our listeners, and they probably would not know even when to, they need a publicist. So we'll just start with that. I mean, maybe you could explain a little bit in some detail, if you like, about what a publicist does and how your firm, Lumos PR, fills that role.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Lumos PR, it is my PR agency, and we specialize in all behind the camera talent. So we work with a lot of directors, producers, and then below the line department heads. But we also do corporate comm for companies behind the camera. So VFX studios, post-production facilities. We've worked with the Gina Davis Institute on gender and media research for film and TV in the past. So that's really our specialty. That's really our niche. And what we do for each client can really vary. For some of them, we're setting up interviews to really spotlight and promote their work on a big upcoming, sexy TV show that's coming out or a big film. Other people, we're doing a very awards-focused campaign. So that could be for the Emmys, for the Oscars. Those are the big main ones. It could be for Guild Awards, which are in the fall, winter. And then we also do film festivals. So if you've got a big project going to Sundance, Tribeca, Cannes, we kind of focus on the bigger festivals generally, just because they get a lot more press attention and we can leverage that to help the client. But that could be everything from, going down and doing the red carpet with them so that we have those photos going up on Getty Images so that anytime someone Googles them, they're seeing those photos of them at the Sundance premiere for their film. That could be doing panels with them at Tribeca. Again, really uplifting, who they are in the industry, giving them those platforms to talk about their work, and then doing press, right, with reporters that are on the ground, getting that first look of those projects at the festivals. So, it's pretty diverse, I think, in terms of what we do. And we really try to tailor each of the campaigns to the individual client, right, where they're at in their career, where they're trying to go, what their individual goals are. Some people specialize in certain genres. Some people want to be known for working with certain kind of filmmakers or working on a certain caliber of a project. And then, other people really are going for that Emmy, right? They really want to make a push for the Oscars, or even if they don't know if their film has a big chance at it, a realistic chance, at least kind of making the most of award season and taking advantage of the fact that reporters are covering all the potential contenders right now, like I said, to get their name out there a little bit more and at least kind of elevate their profile. So that's kind of everything that we do in a nutshell.
You mentioned an awful lot of things that you do and you're involved in. I mean, is there one that charges you up the most? Your favorite thing to work on?
I mean, I really love red carpets. Some publicists don't, just because they are very chaotic. You have a lot of people yelling at you. Oftentimes you're running into issues like, oh, so-and-so's not on the guest list, or, we're not open yet, so you need to wait outside. And I'm like, I'm a publicist. I need to be on the carpet right now for my client arrives. So I think I naturally have a little bit of a bulldog, personality, and I'm not shy. So I think that helps. Yeah. But some publicists, it is, it's a lot being on carpets and reporters are yelling at you. You're wrangling your client and making sure that they're arriving and just having the most seamless experience possible, right? They're going to have the best time that evening. But I really love that kind of stuff. I love the logistical planning beforehand, making sure we have all the info we need for the client for their arrival. And then going and, taking our client down for photos, helping them with interviews. Taraji Pfingsten's in the film. Oh, let's go get a photo with Taraji and helping, depending who they are, they might have worked with her very closely if it's hair and makeup or costumes. But if it's the editor or the composer, they may not have met her yet, right? So my job is to go make that introduction and just make everyone feel really relaxed and comfortable and have a great experience. So I really love that kind of stuff. Same thing with film festivals. I think there's something very magical about film festivals because it's the who's who of the industry. Everyone's there and everyone's coming into it with the intention of meeting amazing people, right? So it's a very different vibe than when you're just at an event in LA or an event in New York. People are still a little more reserved, a little more closed up, but at a festival, that's why everyone's there. So, you can walk right up to, I walked up to Boots Riley. I was at a UTA party and I was like, who is this man with the big hat? And why does everyone keep walking up to him? And he was just standing next to me as all these people keep chatting with him. And finally, when he was just kind of alone, he was just kind of bopping, looking around, taking in the scene. And I was like, who are you? Who are you? Everyone seems to want to chat with you, And he's like, oh, my name's Boots. I'm a director. And I was like, oh, that's great. Did you have a film at Sundance? Because we were at Sundance. And he's like, oh, not this year. I had something a couple years ago. And I was like, what film? And he was like, sorry to bother you. And I was like, I know that film. We used to work with the costume designer on that film.
Cool.
And so that's really the magic of film festivals is you never know who you're standing next to. And I think part of it is just, being kind and open and not necessarily approaching every conversation with what can you do for me? Who are you? And just kind of being curious about why are you here? What brings you to Sundance? What are you working on?
So you obviously like the high energy events. Yeah. So, Stephanie, can you explain in simple terms, what's the difference between advertising and publicity?
Yes. So in simple terms, advertising is, you can pay anyone enough money to say nice things about you, right? PR is you have to be so good at what you do that these high-end publications, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Indio, they want to say nice things about you and give you space and coverage in their, articles and in their magazines because it's so compelling that they'll do it for free. And I was like, oh, that is so cool. And that was one of the reasons I leaned more into the PR space when I was in college studying PR and advertising over advertising. Because like I said, you can pay, everyone has their price tag. You can pay anyone enough money to say exactly what you want them to say about you. But for PR, you have to be so compelling and your story has to be just so, it has to hit all the right notes that they're like, oh, I love that. We have to talk about it. We'll do it for free. And I was like, that's cool. That's magic. That's witchcraft. That's wizardry. That is amazing. And I think that's really awesome, Yeah.
That's a good explanation.
Yeah. And that's a question we get a lot with PR, so how does it work? Do we just give you a bundle of money and then you go out and pay reporters to interview us? Are you the one interviewing me? And I'm like, oh, no. For the most part, PR is earned media, right? So like I said, we're pitching reporters. We're not paying anyone to interview you, right? We're not buying press. That's not what we do. Versus advertising, you're the one coming up with all the messaging, what the photos are going to look like, and you're paying someone to run it in their publication. So we're doing earned media. So all the reporters, we just pitched it so well and hit home on the story so well that they want to chat with you. They think it's interesting and they'd love to cover it for their audience and their viewers and talk about it,
You work largely with, like you said, film crew and below the line. Is there any specific reason that you decided to work in that area of the industry?
Yeah, I kind of fell into it. I grew up acting. I worked on some Nickelodeon shows. So I loved being on set, and also getting to skip
Sure.
school and go to set was way more fun.
Uh-huh.
And, so I love being on set, and I also did a lot of musical theater growing up. So as I was getting into college, I had to make a decision. Do I want to go to an acting conservatory or to a film school for performing arts, or do I want to do something else? And so for me, I decided, no, I'm not so sure if the life of like a struggling poor actor is for me.
Yeah.
But I'm really good with people and I love being on set. So why don't I go into business and do the business side of film and TV? So that was my original plan. So I went to Chapman, studied business marketing, and then eventually added PR and ad as a second major, and immediately loved it. So I graduated with both degrees, but very much knew very quickly, like, love PR. That's definitely what I wanted to do. Started, I did media relations for Disney down at the Disneyland Resort. So I was a media rep. So anytime we did Halloween time at the Disneyland Resort, or, Festival of the Holidays, I'm actually Latina. So I'm actually half Mexican, and my last name's German. So it's very deceiving. I call myself a covert Latina because I don't really advertise it. But, I speak Spanish. So I'll be quiet and just kind of listening to people like, yes. But I would work with all of our Spanish speaking press anytime they came to the Disneyland Resort for those big press junkets, media days. So I love that. And then eventually a friend from school, from Chapman, was like, hey, I'm working at this PR agency. Our president is looking for a new PR coordinator. She works with composers. And growing up, I loved Tim Burton, and I was a huge Danny Elfman fan, like had a bunch of his film soundtracks. So I was like, oh yeah, I would love to do PR for composers. That's really cool. I love that. It's the magic of filmmaking. It's all the behind the scenes stuff that brings it together. So I worked, interviewed with that president. We hit it off immediately. Just great personalities matched. And that was it. And so, a year I was working with her, just really working with a lot of composers, loved it. And then after a year, she left to start another agency. And I just decided to stay where I was at. But I told our CEO, I would love to work with more than just composers. So just because I had other interests, I would love to do hair and makeup. I would love to do cinematographers. So I very quickly just started expanding my roster outside of composers. And, when you do good work for really good people, they tell their friends ask, like, how did you get into all of these publications? And so, your name starts to get around with a good reputation, hopefully. Right. And so that was it. I stayed at that agency for 3 years, built out my roster, had a very healthy roster. I had 62 clients. And then in October 2020, during COVID, I left that agency and started Lumos PR. And so I was very lucky. It's a very common question. Was it hard starting your own agency? Was it scary? It was the middle of the pandemic. So just a lot of unknown variables, but I was very lucky. So out of the 62 clients, I told them, hey, I'm leaving. I'm starting my own shop. Love working with you. Would love to continue working with you. But if not, no hard feelings, right? And 60 out of those 62 clients followed me to Lumos, and my assistant followed me.
So let's talk about a couple of the mechanics. How do you measure a campaign? I mean, what kind of metrics or anything do you use, to measure if your campaign is successful?
Yeah. So, other bigger PR agencies like Rogers and Cowan, PMKBNC, things like that. There's different softwares that you can use to gauge different metrics on press. For example, there's, certain softwares that'll tell you the sentiment of an article. Is it positive? Is it neutral? You can kind of see how many clicks something gets, views, things like that. We don't use those softwares. So we really evaluate press when we're reaching out to reporters or a media outlet to do an interview. We're really looking at, generally are they interviewing good people already, right? Because if Benny Safdie is doing an interview with this publication, I would trust that Benny Safdie and his team have already done their research, that this is a good fit. It's reaching the right audience in terms of film and TV folks that we're also trying to reach. So things like that, right? We're mirroring that. But also, yeah, like who are they catering to through their interviews, through their press coverage? Is that the audience that our client is also trying to reach, right? If it's an awards campaign, we're really trying to target more peer groups, because peer groups in the TV Academy, in the Film Academy, those are the people voting for you for Emmys and Oscars. Versus if your goal is to get your name out there more, elevate your profile, make you a very attractive potential collaborator for future projects, then we want to reach a little bit more of the general film and TV world, studio executives, directors, producers, line producers. Those are really the people that are doing the hiring and making those decisions. They're not so much tailored to your specific peer group.
Gotcha.
So yeah, in terms of success, how big is the publication? What's the social currency that comes with being featured in that publication? Is it notable? Is it reputable? Is there positive connotations when you're associated or affiliated or featured in that publication? Those are kind of the main things. And then also what's nice, when something gets shared to Twitter, right? Now your interview isn't just the interview living on the site, but with like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you can get those metrics, right? How many followers does Variety have? So not only was your interview posted on their website, but it was also shared on their Twitter with 5 million followers. And on Twitter, you can see how many views each post got. So your interview that was shared got 500,000 views. Those are fantastic metrics. If you're trying to get your name out there and get eyeballs, like, yeah, your name just got in front of 500,000 people.
At what point, if I was I don't know, cinematographer, I was somebody that, that is out there working. There's lots of work for me. I'm doing well. At what point should I start thinking or looking for a publicist? And would it be my agent or manager that would contact you?
Yeah, great question. So we do get a lot of referrals from agents and managers, which I'm very, very grateful for. It feels really nice to be like a go-to person for agents that rep really phenomenal people working on big projects, so I'm very grateful for that. We also get a lot of referrals through current clients. Like I said, good people, no good people. So, we have a fantastic roster. I think we have over 170 clients right now. And then other people reach out directly. Some of them will reach out to us on Instagram. Some of them will reach out through the contact form on our website. So there's a couple different ways that people, get in contact with us. And then, when is it the right time to do a press campaign? So we're project to project with all of our clients for the reason that there can be many reasons why it's not the right project to do a press campaign for, right? So we usually just try to have a conversation with someone. Usually we're looking for things like, is it getting a big premiere? Is it going to a major film festival? Because like I said, that's naturally going to attract a lot of press interest. There's the, there's the notoriety and the reputability that comes with being featured in those festivals. So there's a lot that we can leverage and take advantage of if you're going to South by, Sundance, Cannes, TIFF, Tribeca, Venice, Berlinale, things like that. But also, who's attached to the film? Does it have a major Oscar-winning director? There you go. Does it have Emma Stone, right? Does it have Lily Gladstone? Who's in the film? Because those names, those A-list actors are naturally, again, going to attract press interest, going to attract eyeballs. We can leverage that. Who's the producer? Who are the producers attached to it? What's the production company attached to it? If it's a major production company, again, that's going to help it get sold. It's going to help it get distribution. So we can leverage all of that. So those are kind of the elements that we look for. But also, did you have a good experience on it? Like, are you happy with your work on the project? Did you have a good experience? Because we don't need to give attention to things that you didn't enjoy working with that director. You're not happy with the final cut of the film. Probably not the best project for us to promote, right? Let's save our budget. Let's save our press efforts for something that you're more excited to talk about. And also projects that kind of emulate what you want to continue doing in the future, right? So if you did like a horror film, let's say you did The Nun 6 or, you know, something like that, The Conjuring 5, but you're like, I hate horror. I don't want to do this anymore.
Sure.
I want to go in romantic comedies. Then I'm like, then we shouldn't be promoting you as like the horror guy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So those are a little harder to transition over to. But that's an example where I'd say, you know, if you want to be known for something else, again, we don't want to position you as the go-to person for these horror projects because that's what you're going to keep getting calls for.
A good time to hire you would be when I am looking to become more known for a specific genre or a style of something. So say I'm a director and I know of your company and I've got something that's at Sundance and we think it's gonna be great. And I want everybody to hear about my work in this project. And I contact you. How do I budget for a PR agency?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so, you know, there's also different kinds of publicists. So if you're a director, you know, like I said, we specialize in personal publicity. So we would represent you as an individual director. Right. Versus there's also film publicists. So those are really the ones that you would call when you get into a film festival like Sundance to help with all of your press efforts at the festival for the film overall. Right. Sure. So they might be inviting press to come to the red carpet to cover the premiere for you. Film publicists are going to be working with IndieWire to do a big photo shoot for the director and the cast and maybe one or two of the producers. So those are kind of broader efforts to promote the film and really with the ambition of getting it sold and getting it distribution versus us, we're very much catering to just you, right? Gotcha. So we wouldn't be doing these bigger press pieces with the cast or the rest of the crew necessarily. And so how do you budget for these things? Most PR agencies, I think it really varies nowadays, but most PR agencies, you're on a monthly retainer and you know, there can be minimums in terms of the spend every month. There could be minimums in terms of how long you need to be on retainer, like a 6-month minimum or a year minimum. We're a little bit different only because of the clients that we work with, right? Sure. We're working with a lot of individuals, so they don't have $5,000 a month to be on retainer for 6 months a year. Like that's crazy. You know, actors, a little bit of a different story. Behind the camera, director, producers, below the line department heads, they don't have that kind of budget, right? So we're project to project. So we charge a campaign fee that's due up front when we launch the campaign. And it basically covers all the work that goes into it. Most of our campaigns are about anywhere from 2 to 4 months. Most are in the 3 to 4 month range. So you're paying that fee up front and it's just covering all the work that's in that 4-month period when we're promoting the show. So we typically started campaigns about 2 months before the premiere. That really gives us time to update the client's bio, do media training with them to help them prep for interviews, also to align with the studio, right? Hey, what's your marketing plan? Is there going to be a premiere? Can we make sure that our client's invited to the premiere? We want to walk them on the carpet. Are you guys going to be pitching any kind of press for the costume designer or the producer? You know, if not, no worries. That's what we're here for, is to fill that gap and make sure that they're taken care of. But if there's any ways that we can work with the studio to fold them into maybe other big press pieces that they're already working on, amazing. So we're the advocate on that end. Also, you know, if you're a costume designer, hey, give us, we want sketches, we want photos from the fittings, we want, you know, the close-ups of the costumes, of the fabrics that you use to build them. So we take all of those behind the scenes photos and route it through the studio for approval. And the bigger the studio or the more secretive that we have to be on the project. So Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, Star Trek, things like that, the longer it can take to get those approvals. So that's why we give ourselves 2 months of runway leading up to a premiere. It takes time. You know, it takes time to get all that stuff done and get those responses back from the studios. Say, yeah, this looks good. No, this is not approved. Please use these instead. No problem. And then we do start reaching out to reporters, you know, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks before the premiere. We don't give away any spoilers, so we have to be very diligent and careful and not being very careful with what we're sharing beforehand.
Sure.
But reporters are looking down the line. What's coming up? Who do I want to talk to? What films am I excited about? So we need to make sure that you're on their radar before then. A lot of people make the mistake of, well, let me see how the film does after it comes out, and then maybe we'll talk about PR. Sweetheart, you've missed the boat.
Yeah,
you've missed the boat. It's been out. Now it's old news. It's out. It's old news. Within a week or two, reporters have moved on to the next big thing, right?
Yep.
So people don't necessarily understand those timelines that we're working in. So we are pitching, like I said, we are pitching reporters before the premiere. And then once a reporter says, yes, we'd love to chat with them, we typically schedule the interview right around the premiere date or right after. That way we're not under any more embargoes. We don't have to worry about spoilers. The film is out publicly. We can talk about it freely, but we're still doing those interviews and they're running, while the film's on this trajectory and it's getting a lot of buzz and a lot of press attention, and you're in that mix. Yeah. But it took 2 months to get to that.
I'm going to ask you some quick questions, a little rapid fire, quick questions, quick answers. The toughest type of project to successfully publicize?
Yeah, I don't know what the right answer to that is. I think maybe just something with a lot of red tape, right? Like I said, if you're working on a secretive project or like with a really major studio and there's a lot of spoilers, it can be hard to pitch, or it can be hard to get approval from the studios on things. So I think, to our benefit, we have really good rapport with all the major studios. So they know, I know what Disney needs from us to get things approved, right? So it is a handshake, but those are probably the harder ones. Is a lot of red tape. There's just a lot of approvals, or sometimes there's too many cooks in the kitchen and no one can make a decision on the studio side. Okay. So that's the other challenging part, is sometimes you really have to call a couple people to be like, hi, did you see my email? I've been emailing you for weeks. I really need this approved. Or wording with things in a way like, hey guys, we're pitching this tomorrow. So let me know by 5 p.m. today. And if I don't hear from you, I'm moving forward. Gotcha. And then usually that solicits a response like, please don't pitch. Like, we're working on this. And I'm like, finally, after 4 emails, someone responded.
Your favorite movie of all time?
I do love Wolf of Wall Street, and a new edition is Killers of the Flower Moon. I think I've watched it 4 times already.
And that was really great.
So clearly I love Scorsese.
Okay. How many hours a week do you work, Stephanie?
I think it just depends. I think some weeks I'm doing, 20 hours of work. And then other weeks, if you're on the ground for a festival, you're working from, 8 a.m. when you wake up, you're doing emails on your laptops, and then you're out until 2 a.m, right? Going to events with your clients, panels, red carpets. And so those are very long days. So it just kind of depends, I work very efficiently on planes, which I love. I can, you can get a lot of work done in 4 hours,
If you weren't in PR, what do you think you'd be doing?
I love traveling. So I would love to be like a travel planner. I just think that's a lot of fun. Especially if I was a travel planner for like the Obamas, like the really high-end, sexy itineraries, right? You want a spa day, you want to go swimming with manta rays, you got it. You need a private aircraft, absolutely. I think I'd love to do that kind of stuff. And we do that for our current clients, when they're traveling to Tribeca, we do put together travel itineraries for them and event itineraries for them when they're on the ground at the festival. So I would love to do that, or I'd be a national park ranger, because I am very outdoorsy and I love nature. So I would love to just have my little ranger vehicle driving around Yellowstone all day, telling people not to bug the bears, leave them alone, not to touch the bison. I would love that.
That said, what's your favorite thing that's not associated with the industry?
Like I said, I'm very outdoorsy. So I love trail running, and I love national parks, and I love camping. So that's probably it. I just am out in nature, away from people, turning my phone off completely for a couple days.
Because you're such a people person, that's wild. One last question for you. If I listened to this and I had bubbly's not the right word, if I had the right attitude and I loved what you do, what advice would you give somebody that might help them get their foot in the door in the PR world, in the entertainment industry?
Yeah. If you're a student, my number one advice is intern like crazy, because having a degree will not get you a job after college. Like you have to have work experience, but in the field that you want to go into, right? So when you're a student, you should be interning at PR agencies, the studios, any kind of PR position that you can get, go for it. But also, you have you just have such an advantage when you're a student, because people want to help you. They're like, oh, look at this little bird. We need to help them fly. So you need to milk that for everything it's worth, because when you've graduated and you just don't have a job after college, or you're 40 and you just don't have a job and you're like, I want to get into PR. People are like, yeah, okay, you just want a job, right? Yeah. It's a very different, you're viewed through a very different lens. So when you're a student, oh my God, take advantage of you email everybody. Let me tell you, when I was a student at Chapman, I was emailing like the VP of media relations at Disney. I was emailing the VP of PR at Disney, just like, hello, I'm a Chapman student. I, did XYZ internships. I'm really interested in entertainment PR. Can I come by your office or interview you over the phone for 15 minutes? Can I bring a coffee to your office? Every single person that I emailed, yes, more than happy to chat with you. And so it's, what are you afraid of? The worst thing people are going to tell you is no, right? Be polite. Don't be entitled. Be kind, make it as easy for them as possible to say yes, but you need to milk that for everything it's worth. And then if you're a little bit older and you want to get into PR, I think same thing, right? Don't be shy, like reach out. But I think what works better when you're a little bit older and you're not in college anymore, you're not a student, is you need to be going to networking events. You need to go to the women in film mixers. You need to go to the women in media mixers. You need to you need to join a guild for your craft and go meet your peers. And, things like that is where you're going to meet people. And those, if you have really good people skills, that'll help open doors for you, which can be a lot harder when you're not a student, right? And people aren't trying to help you. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And thank you for spending some time with me, Stephanie. I can see why people hire you, because you're very excited about what you're doing, and you're very, very knowledgeable.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mike.